This is exactly right.
This Father's Day, Karen, give your dad a gift packed with the Omaha steaks he craves.
Go to omahasteaks.com and enter code MURDER in the search bar for 74% off the Father's Day Steak Fix gift package.
That's a $235 value now for only $59.99.
This offer ends soon.
Go to omahasteaks.com and type murder in the search bar to get the Father's Day Steak Fix package today.
Goodbye.
Hello.
And welcome
To My Favorite Murder.
It's the mini-sode.
Where we read you your stuff.
Don't you love it?
We do.
It's so easy.
It's so easy.
Should I kick this one off?
Do it, Karen.
Hello, everyone. This first email I'm going to read to you, the subject line is, My Dad's 7 Degrees of Murder Separation.
Ew.
Right? Hi, MFM fam. That's what the kids say these days, fam.
Fam.
Yeah. It means family.
Oh, great.
Let's just dive in. That's what it says in this email. That's not me. I want to talk about other bullshit forever.
Me too.
But this person wants to dive in. My dad was helping me move out of my yet another terrible mid-20s apartment a few weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Can we just take a moment?
Oh, been there, then again, and then been there again and again.
How about the first studio apartment you live in after you stop living with people? You finally live in, that's when I started getting cats.
The best time of my life was in that little studio in Hollywood, in fucking Santa Monica and Western, the worst neighborhood.
Oh, shit, girl.
Yeah, but it was the cutest apartment.
Was it really?
Yes.
It was a hidden gem?
It was one of those old brick ones that are super tall. So it was like an old-timey one.
Oh, did you have brick on the inside of your apartment? Oh, that's rad.
Was so cute.
Mine was on Grace in off Cahuenga. And I really loved the apartment. I had friends that lived on the 4th floor and I lived on the 2nd floor. And I really loved my apartment manager, Polly. What's up, Polly?
Hi.
He was the best. And I would always be late with my rent. And he was like, Karen, come on. Come on. I'd be like, okay. And then one time after I stopped drinking, I lost a ton of weight because I wasn't drinking 12 beers every night.
Right.
And he stopped me to say I was too thin and he was worried.
Aww.
And I was like, that's the most beautiful thing you could ever say to any woman. That's not true. And it's body positivity.
Yes.
The ride was an hour each way and we ran out of things to talk about on the way back. Naturally, I brought up MFM and started sharing with him New Jersey stories from the podcast since that's where we are from. Turns out this man is the 7 degrees of separation from many high and low profile New Jersey, New York stories. He told me how him and his friends broke into, quote, that asshole John List, end quotes, house, and played floor hockey in the ballroom where List put his family's bodies.
Oh, my God.
The mansion is only 15 minutes from where I grew up. He went on to say how my great-great some relative knew Charles Lindbergh and thought he killed his baby and tried to cover it up when one of his practical jokes went wrong.
What?
Apparently, Lindbergh had a fucked sense of humor.
Shut the fuck up.
Yes, this is alleged.
I want to hear more.
I know, right? My jaw dropped even further when he finally told me that he had once bought cocaine off a notorious club promoter and murderer, Michael Alec.
Oh my God.
When my dad used to DJ at the Limelight in NYC.
You're fucking
Who is this
mouth.
man? Who is this man?
Oh my God.
How old is this man? How available is this man? My dad has worn nothing but freshly ironed Dockers and a polo shirt all my life. And here he is telling me how he used to buy drugs from a murderer. Insane.
Oh my God.
He even told me how he witnessed a low-profile murder in my hometown and was called as a witness. The stories kept spilling out. Over Memorial Day weekend, I went to my family's house and my dad handed me a stack of super rad vintage true crime novels.
Dude.
In the collection of books was his annotated copies about the Hillside Strangler, Bundy, Mindhunter, and a bunch of others. I finally learned where my true crime obsession comes from. Side note. When I first went to college in NYC, my dad taught me to stand on the subway platform with my back up to the wall so no one could come up behind me. Pro tip. Which kinds of groups of people are threatening / to be aware of when walking around late? That seems problematic. And how to pull a knife on someone quickly. Man, dads are great. Stay sexy and talk to your parents about murder. They might surprise you. Much love, B.
Oh my God.
Amazing. I think it's so true. Parents are untapped sources.
Yeah.
They don't talk to their kids about stuff like that because it's,
Weird.
Yeah, it's like, it's scary.
Well,
but if you're an adult, if you have your own apartment, your parents will tell you about fucked up shit they know.
Talk to your parents like adults, and they'll talk to you like an adult too. Like, ask them questions about their lives, because you just don't do that as a kid. As someone's child, you don't ask them questions about their lives, and then you find out all these interesting things.
That's right. And you can actually say, I'm preparing your biography.
Right.
You will die soon.
Yeah.
Please tell me everything while you still have the chance.
Exactly.
How's your arthritis? Do you need some Boniva?
What did you do in high school that was creepy? Okay.
Back in the pioneer days.
I have a dad, one too. My dad worked for a kidnapping.
I have a dad. That's what I thought you were saying.
Too. My dad worked for a kidnapping rapist.
Oh.
Hey, what's up? I used to be so jealous of all the murderinos whose relatives told them of their personal hometown murders, until it finally happened to me.
Hey.
Last weekend, my dad and I were going out of town on a 3-hour drive to visit my sick grandma when the unthinkable happened. My dad asked me to put on my, quote, murder cast I'm always listening to and telling him about. Nervously, I searched for the perfect debut episode to ease him in, and I finally decided to play my favorite episode, Weapon Bush, episode 81. What the fuck? Why did we? I don't even know. Weapon Bush.
We'll have to ask Steven about it after.
He doesn't know.
He must know.
He blocks all of this out, as he should.
Weapon Bush.
Episode 81. When Georgia tells the satisfying story of how Dr. Jeffrey McDonald was caught for murdering his wife and 2 sweet baby angels.
Yes.
I cringed and tried to talk over the more gruesome details of Karen's Peter Curtin story, so my dad wouldn't freak out and change his mind in wanting to listen and bond with me over this, quote, taboo subject. We got through the episode, and I decided to play a minisode to get some laughs in. In the middle of the minisode, my dad says to me, "Hey, something like that happened to me." I'm sorry, I'm doing Marty's voice. I don't know.
I love it. It's perfect.
I couldn't believe it. It was finally happening to me. I paused the podcast and tried not to seem too eager. My dad tells me about this one horrible supervisor he had in the 80s when he landed a job as an assembly line worker, question mark. Who cares? She says. He said he hated his supervisor because he never did any work unless the big bosses came around, and was rude to everyone he came into contact with. My dad left the factory, question mark, to serve in the Air Force. And when he came back, his mom, my grandma, asked him, "Did you ever work with George?" My dad rolled his eyes and said yes. Then my grandma proceeds to tell my dad that he was arrested for kidnapping and rape. Oh, she writes, so this fucking guy kidnapped a young girl from his neighborhood, tied her up in his home, and would rape her repeatedly every day. Ew. Sorry. When the parents held a search party to look for her, all caps, this fucking guy would be looking for her alongside the rest of his neighbors.
Yeah.
After a few weeks of being held captive, the girl managed to get away and tell authorities everything.
Yes.
Badass.
Yes.
She wrote. After the first few episodes ended, my dad turned to me and said, "Wow, so do they have an episode about JonBenet?"
Yes, we do, sir.
We absolutely do. I'm sorry this is such a long email. I just had to share this exciting bonding moment between me and my dad. Thank you, and SSDGM, Brittany.
I love it, Brittany.
Love it.
Congratulations on finally cracking that case.
That's right.
That dad case.
That's right.
It's an exciting feeling.
It is.
It can happen to you, too.
I hate that band, though. You too? That's stupid.
It can happen to Bono and The Edge. I'm not going to read the subject line of this.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. First off, thanks for making our parentheses, we're tag teaming authoring this work days so much more enjoyable. We're glad our coworkers don't know we actually listen to a murder podcast all day instead of music, but you definitely make the day more enjoyable. Second off, confession. We are not the protagonists of this story, but it was way too good not to share with you. We live in Chicago, and this last winter was a very cold one. Near the end of January, the temperatures reached minus 27 degrees. With a wind chill, it felt like minus 50 degrees. But global warming is a hoax? Okay. Literally colder than Antarctica, Alaska, and the North Pole. Because of this, the entire city shut down, and most companies let their employees work from home, which pretty much meant drinking spiked hot chocolate and watching movies.
Hell yeah.
God bless. Well, some of our friends also worked from home, and during the day began hearing weird noises from their attic.
This better not be a creepypasta.
But they said friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe them so far.
We'll see. They believed it was just some animal trying to escape the cold temperatures. So to get proof for their landlord, they stuck a selfie stick into the attic opening to try to get a photo of the animal.
Oh.
When they brought the selfie stick back down and went to look at the photo, it turned out not to be an animal, but instead the photo revealed a man crouching down in the corner, trying to avoid being captured on the phone.
No.
In all caps, ugh, my worst nightmare. Turns out this man had moved into our friend's apartment before they moved in when the unit was empty. Our friends moved in September, so they had been unknown cohabitating with this man for 5 months.
No.
5 months. Turns out when they would go to work during the day, he would come down from the attic and live in their apartment. He used the shower, ate their food, and watched their TV. Who knows what else?
Holy shit.
The worst part was that the opening to the attic was in one of their rooms. Thank the Lord he wasn't a creepy sexual predator, and I'm so glad he never physically hurt them, but he definitely emotionally scared the bejesus out of them.
Can you imagine looking at that photo?
That photo.
Silently, and then everyone turns and runs out the door?
I mean, here's the thing. We're doubting that this could be a creepypasta. This could be based on other stories.
Who cares?
Pics or it didn't happen. It seems like they have pics.
Yeah.
These are gettable pics.
Right.
If pos.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to this, Mary and Katie.
Do you think they kicked him out or just started charging him rent?
They're like, if you shower a couple more times a week, this is a fine situation.
Like, we're not going to make you pay like half of it because you're only staying in the crawl space.
Yeah, you just have to crouch up there.
Like, give him like a quarter or like of the rent.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Why not? If he's not, I mean, if it's been that long and he hasn't done anything creepy to them, he's a pretty fucking good roommate.
How about you build some fucking stairs?
Yeah.
Mary and Katie's friends.
We've all had bad roommates. That sounds like a great roommate.
Yeah, exactly.
He waits till you're gone, lets you have your life.
Does he do the dishes? He must have, or they would have noticed.
That's a good point.
That's an amazing point because I was in a standoff one time when I lived in Sacramento in the haunted house.
Yeah.
We would not do the dishes and we all blamed each other. Like, you're the one that never does it. And the kitchen sink was just filled with dishes all the time.
Did I ever tell you about the time I had a similar roommate situation and we were out of paper towels and I was like, hey, we've all bought paper towels. It's your turn to buy paper towels. And she goes, I don't really use paper towels. And then she leaves me a note about borrowing something of mine in my bathroom on a paper towel. As it was... She was too stupid for it to be on purpose. Yeah. Because it would have been fucking pretty great. How great is that? Oh. Okay. This is from my friend, Brooke Van Poplin. So she says, hey, gang, I sent this to Georgia over 2 years ago when you still read about hometown murders. And I'm so thrilled that after many excellent stories about things found in walls, first responder stories, and I think even sinkholes, you've returned to good old fashioned murder stories from where you grew up. And this is that. This is my hometown murder story from the Detroit suburbs where my dad was a cop and I was more than likely blasting Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation cassette from my boombox and roller skating in my basement. There are some conflicting details and stories, but this is the most reported version I found. It was November 1989 when two teenagers, Joseph Pisano, 17, and Bruce Michaels, 16, went on an armed robbery spree that claimed the lives of Rochester, Michigan residents Glenn and Wanda Tarr. The teens chose their victims at random, which is an extra layer of scary bullshit. After finishing dinner, 58-year-old Wanda Tarr, a life insurance agent, went to meet with a client and before doing so stopped to withdraw money from an ATM where Bruce and Joseph had been lurking around waiting for a victim. They followed her into a quiet neighborhood she was heading into and cut her off and held her at gunpoint. She was only 3 miles from her home. They forcibly robbed her for a sum total of $15 and then kidnapped her. The monsters drove her into a park in Pontiac, which is a neighboring city to Rochester Hills, and fatally shot her in the head and just dumped her body there. They neatly stacked her insurance forms next to her body. What sucks about Pontiac in that era is the sound of gunshots was nothing to rouse attention or suspicion. Then, using Wanda's ID, this is the fucking worst, Joseph and Bruce figured out how to navigate back to the Tarr's residence, where they broke into the house and told 53-year-old Glenn Tarr that they'd abducted his wife. Glenn, a GM Chevrolet executive, was tied up while they ransacked the house for jewelry and electronics. Then, kidnapping Glenn, they shoved him into the trunk of a car and stole the other two cars, a Chevy Cavalier and a Geo Prism.
Oh, what a great car. The Geo Prism.
Why don't those exist anymore?
Because they're being used as gift boxes for a lot of things.
Good. The two then drove Glenn to two other ATM machines in the area, but apparently failed to get money out of them, says one source. But another source says they got $500 total, plus the $15 they took from Wanda.
So 515 total.
Maybe just 15.
Oh,
So
source-wise, yeah. Got it.
The assailants drove Glenn, this is so awful, back to the exact place in the park where they had shot and killed Wanda, who was lying there murdered in front of Glenn when they shot him 6 times and dumped him next to his wife's body.
So they made him look at his dead wife before they killed him.
Sounds like
That's fucking the definition of evil.
Remember how we asked for hometowns? We've changed our mind.
Right?
Several hours later, at 5 a.m., a neighbor called the police noting that the Tarr's house looked suspicious. The garage was open and empty with the lights on, which is not typical. Later that morning, a woman walking her dog in Pontiac Park found the Tarr's lifeless bodies. A search for the killers and stolen cars ensued, and while my dad was on patrol, he actually found one of the cars belonging to the Tarr's abandoned on the outskirts of Rochester, in a really rural part of town on a dirt road, normally reserved for teenage, underage beer drinking and shenanigans. And then she writes, guilty. I asked my dad if he remembered if he found the Prism or the Cavalier, and he said he honestly couldn't remember. Being from Motor City, this is inexcusable to me, but whatever.
True.
As for the killers, they were clearly young and dumb, and after robbing and killing the Tarrs, these 2 psychopaths went to a dance club and bragged about what they had done. No. They were sloppy in every respect and picked up by police quickly. The violence and senselessness of their acts really rocked the community, and the 2 received maximum sentences of life without parole. Even spookier, turns out our good family friend was at a McDonald's near the Tarr's house on the night they were murdered. She was with her young boys eating inside when 2 creepy teens came into the Golden Arches, and they eyeballed her and her kids in a way that made her feel incredibly threatened. It was Joseph and Bruce, as she found out a few days later when their mugshots appeared in the news.
Wow.
After being arrested. She went cold when she recognized them instantly. The way the murder timeline works out is that the murderers stop into Mickey D's after killing Wanda, but before killing Glenn.
Whoa.
Whether it was before they abducted Glenn and put him in, basically, it could have been while he was in the trunk outside or not. They're not sure of the timeline.
God.
And she fucking saw them in McDonald's and was creeped out by them.
You're eating food.
Yeah, they're getting a snack between murders. The Tarrs have 5 children, one of which has spoke out that his faith has given him the ability to finally forgive the teenage killers after all these years. Scary fucking stuff. Thank you for the many hours of twisted companionship mixed with advocacy for victims, mental health awareness, and tough talk about how we women are a force when we come together for good. Love you both, and stay sexy and try not to be the victim of absolute bullshit you have no control over.
Yeah.
From Brooke Van Poppelen. And she has a podcast that's a bunch of friends of mine called Sidework.
About waitressing?
About waitressing and waiting tables, and they interview
Restaurant stuff?
Restaurant stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
God, that's so... Here's the thing. It's like... How did they find each other, those 2 teens?
Right.
And how did they both realize? I want to know the dynamic between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
It's like the DC Sniper, where you're like, this isn't common.
No.
How are the 2 of you together?
You're both
on
perfectly
this?
okay doing this.
Right.
Like the Columbine shooters. It's just like you're both, and moving forward without the fucking second thought.
Right.
It's insane.
And there's so many chances to stop, to go, oh my God, that just happened and that's the worst thing of all time. I'm running or something, and it doesn't. It's just so creepy.
Escalates.
Yeah.
Ugh. Take coloring your hair at home to the next level with Madison Reed.
You deserve gorgeous professional hair color delivered to your door for less than $25.
I do. And for decades, women have had 2 options for coloring their hair: outdated at-home hair color or the time and expense of a salon.
It's so true. Many Madison Reed clients comment on how their new hair color has improved their lives.
Women love the results: gorgeous, shiny, multi-dimensional, healthy-looking hair.
And Madison Reed delivers gray covering, game-changing color that you can do at home and look as if you just came from a salon.
What makes Madison Reed color unique is that it's crafted by master colorists who blend nuances of light, dark, cool, warm, and everything to create 45 gorgeous multi-tonal shades. I have to say, so I've started on the subscription where I get it when I need to dye my hair, and literally 3 days before I'm like, oh crap, my hair looks terrible, I get a package. It's like they know.
It's so smart. And it's that kind of thing where time passes so strangely that I never think it's time,
Kara,
until that package shows up.
So metaphysical.
Look, what I'm saying is that it's all...
And you can find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com.
My Favorite Murder mini episode listeners get 10% off plus free shipping on their first color kit with code MyFavoriteMurder.
That's code MyFavoriteMurder at madison-reed.com.
Goodbye. Georgia,
Karen.
you want to know why celebrities look so good?
Yes.
They have personal stylists that make sure their outfits are always on point.
That's right. And with Stitch Fix, you can afford to have a professional stylist curate your look too.
Stitch Fix is an online personal styling service that delivers your favorite clothing, shoes, and accessories directly to you.
Stitch Fix has the brands you know and love, plus exclusive styles you won't find anywhere else.
After completing your style profile, your expert personal stylist will send you a hand-picked box of items based on your style and preferences.
They even have men's and kids boxes too.
Kids.
What?
With no subscription required. Pick between automatic shipments or only getting new pieces on demand.
Shipping, exchanges, and returns are always free.
Plus, the $20 styling fee is automatically applied towards anything you keep from your box.
Get started today at stitchfix.com/murder.
And get an extra 25% off when you keep everything in your box.
That's stitchfix.com/murder.
stitchfix.com/murder.
Goodbye.
Here's my last one, and we'll fold McDonald's back into it. Because we did ask for drive-through stories, remember?
Yeah, this is weird.
I got a couple good ones, okay. But this one I love. Hi, Karen, Georgia, and sweet furry angels. No. Have I got a creepy fast food story for you? Okay, so when I was 16, I'd just gotten hired at McDonald's. In the car, on the way to my first shift, my mom, Canadian, my mom says to me, "Did I ever tell you about the CIA agent in the drive-thru?" I said no, and she proceeded to tell me the story of when my uncle worked at a Burger King drive-thru in the town of Surrey, British Columbia. FYI, I asked my uncle to fill in some of the blanks in the story when I knew I was going to write you.
Great. Fact checking.
Right?
We should
Good
try
job.
it sometime.
This is basic true crime reporting, and you've done it great. Who, what, when, where, how.
That's it.
It was sometime in the late 80s, and my uncle was working at the front counter when a woman pulled up to the drive-thru and handed the girl at the window a note that said, "Call this number and tell them I'm being followed." The lady sped off, and the girl opened the note, which said something like, "I work for the CIA and I'm being followed. Call this number." Since this is Canada, the manager called the good old RCMP to have them investigate. Soon, the small town Burger King was swarmed with cop cars and RCMP officers who were all deciding whether or not to call the number themselves or forget about it, since the lady was probably just a crazy person. Well, they end up calling the number, and it turns out to be a, all caps, direct line to the CIA or the Secret Service.
Oh my God.
And then in parentheses, my mom and uncle can't decide which one. But I think, isn't Secret Service just for protection of like the president and stuff? I think
no matter what my answer is, I don't know.
We'll be wrong. Yeah, you're right. I'm guessing CIA. Okay. The officers gave the Americans on the other end all the information that they asked for and interviewed everyone working that day, including my uncle, who says it was one of the most thrilling days of his career.
Yes.
Looking back on it now, he says that the lady who came through the drive-thru was probably just some disturbed woman who happened to have the direct line to an American intelligence agency, but I guess we'll never know. I'm sorry. Hey, guess what, Uncle? It was your experience and it's your life, but you're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You guys, yeah.
You don't understand how hard it is to get the phone number to the CIA because you're Canadian.
That's right.
That's like being able to call Dudley Do Right.
Yeah. No, it was totally a CIA agent.
That's a cartoon Canadian Mountie. I'm being insulting to everybody. Thank you for making my commutes to school so much more interesting, and also your book is the best birthday present I've ever received. Stay sexy and don't give crazy people a direct number to the CIA. She wasn't crazy, goddammit. It's the
she
perfect
could have been
cover.
crazy, but she was also a CIA agent.
She was absolutely a CIA agent.
And maybe crazy, but that's okay.
You go deep cover because you don't look like a CIA agent. You don't have slick back hair. It's not some Men in Black
smart
thing.
thing to do to hand it to the fucking, like you're handing money and you're like, that's so CIA.
Yes.
It's straight out of CIA 101.
And she called the number was the CIA.
Yeah,
It wasn't a pizza place next door.
And I love that she fucking like bombed her by getting the RCMP to fucking show up instead.
Yes.
So whoever's following her was like, they're on to me.
That was absolutely her and them. And anyway, stay sexy and don't give crazy. Oh, I already said that.
Yeah.
Sorry. The only thing I didn't say is the signature, which is just the letter A.
Oh, she's in the CIA probably. That's some CIA shit right there.
That's some identity hiding motherfucking bullshit.
Okay. This one's way less murdery than my other two have been.
Okay.
This is called The Marshmallow Incident. Lighthearted. Hello! Longtime listener, first-time emailer. I'm the youngest of 4 children. We're all very close in age and a pretty physical bunch, so there are plenty of stories from my childhood that ended in the emergency room that I could tell you about, but one of the more infamous stories took place when I was only about a year old. I know the details because it has been told to me about 1,000 times. My whole family was roasting marshmallows and palling around in the front yard one summer evening. At the time, my brother Micah was 3 and my sister Naomi was 4. Micah wanted to play with one of those plastic yellow wiffle ball bats, you know, the kind everyone had growing up.
Yep.
His little toddler arms couldn't handle holding the metal skewer with his marshmallow and the bat at the same time. So he put the pointy end of the skewer in his mouth to free up his arms.
No.
You know
Wait, sorry, how old? 3?
3.
Oh,
you know
no.
where this is going. And started reaching for the bat.
Baby kebab.
My sister was riding around on her tricycle and, like any bratty older sister, decided that she wanted the yellow bat when she noticed Micah going for it. So she rode over and tried to yank it away before he could grab it. In the process, the bat bumped into the skewer in his mouth and pushed it all the way back into his throat. Oh, so far that it actually poked through the fleshy skin under his ear.
Oh, no.
All right, there. Stephen.
No, I don't. Stephen's perfect. That's not okay.
It happened. This isn't creepypasta.
I forget that your ears are basically connected to your mouth.
Tender bits.
Ear, nose, throat.
Doctor.
Please no.
Tender bits.
Tender 3-year-old bits.
Oh.
Just like chicken cutlets. Cut up and skewered for a delicious summertime treat.
That's right. My parents, who were presumably busy pouring themselves another glass of wine while all this went down, immediately jumped into action, threw Micah into the pickup truck, and my dad started speeding him to the closest ER. My dad was too afraid to remove the skewer himself.
Good. Never remove skewers.
But little Micah was like, I don't like this and I want it gone. And he yanked the skewer out while my dad was driving. Oh. At the ER, the doctors explained that the skewer had missed his carotid artery, the one that supplies all the blood to your brain, by less than a centimeter.
Shit.
If it had been punctured, he probably would have died. If my brother hadn't just pulled the skewer out himself, it would have been an extremely risky surgery to have removed it.
What?
Yeah. But Lady Luck was on our side, and Micah was sent home half an hour later with a Band-Aid and a sticker. To this day, metal skewers are strictly forbidden from our house. We can only roast marshmallows with very thin and flimsy sticks we find in the yard. And Naomi still gets teased for almost killing our brother over a baseball bat.
Yep.
Thank you for keeping me entertained during long commutes and boring days at grad school. SSDGM, Hannah.
Holy shit, Hannah. That's why people believe in the Lord or a god of some kind.
Right.
Because that's crazy.
A miracle.
It's a miracle it didn't kill him on the way in, and then a 3-year-old performed his own throat surgery.
That's right.
And lived.
I would like to congratulate Hannah for eliciting the weirdest noises I've ever heard Stephen make in my fucking life.
Stephen, what was that?
So sorry. It gets worse every time.
Yeah.
It was the flag.
Yes.
And then there was, I think, like falling off the balcony or something.
Yeah.
It's just
Ooh.
more
But
horrifying.
Evan, are you gagging?
I think I just uttered, I think it just sounded
You feel it.
horror. Yeah.
Yeah, you almost like
I was like feeling it in my...
Yeah.
It's happening to you.
Yeah.
That's how amazing Hannah's storytelling was.
Hannah, great job.
True
You nailed
storytelling.
that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Send us your fucked up, not fucked up, fucked around, fucked with stories.
All of it.
All of them.
Don't send us fucking stories.
No fucking
That's
stories.
not this podcast.
That's not what we're about.
That's not what we do.
You know that about us.
Stop it. And stay sexy.
And don't get murdered.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Elvis, you want a cookie?
Due to the graphic nature of this podcast, listener discretion is advised. This episode features discussions of drug use, suicide, murder, sexuality, and other adult content. We advise extreme caution for listeners under 13.
In September of 1957, Sean Connery arrived at his London movie set, business as usual. The 6'2", 27-year-old heartthrob had landed his first major role in a motion picture, alongside his co-star, Hollywood pinup queen Lana Turner.
Sean got along well with Lana, at least until her boyfriend arrived on set. Ever since Johnny Stompanato had landed in England, Lana had seemed uneasy and nervous.
Today, Lana spent several hours in makeup, much longer than normal. When she finally exited her trailer, Sean thought he could see concealer on Lana's neck.
He approached her to ask how she was doing.
Then heard a man shout at him from behind.
Sean turned around to see Johnny pointing a handgun in his face, chamber loaded, hammer pulled back and ready to fire. Without thinking, Sean grabbed Johnny's wrist and twisted, forcing Johnny to drop.
Before we get started with this week's episode, we want to ask you to subscribe to Imagined Life if you haven't already. This is our last episode of the season. We have a new season coming in August with some fun twists, and we want to keep you informed. And thank you. Your support is why we continue to make the show. Okay, time to step into the shoes of someone famous. So sit back, let go, and...
Imagine you're on the back porch of the ranch-style house you share with your husband of 10 years, watching the sun dip behind the pine trees that line your property. When you first moved here 6 years ago, you thought no one could ever be unhappy in a place like this. With its lush, sprawling 225 acres, it's like the Ponderosa Ranch from the TV show Bonanza, only better because it's real and it's yours. Your previous home was nicknamed The Shack and didn't even have running water. Your husband would have to get water from the local plant and haul it home in a big tank on a trailer. It wasn't much, but you were happy there. You'd snuggle up against his big chest and watch whatever was on the TVs. Yes, that's TVs, plural. You had two, one on top of the other. The bottom TV had working sound, but no picture. The top had picture, but no sound. Together, they worked pretty good. Kind of like you and your husband. Used to. Now, you not only have multiple TVs and running water, but you also have a creek that runs through your property, a swimming pond, plenty of room to ride your horses, and a heavenly back porch where the two of you once ended all your days. The wind picks up and blows over one of the hand-drawn signs that lean against the back of the house. Some local friends and fans made the signs and put them up along the main drag in town so you'd see them when you returned home. The conquering hero. Seeing them that day made you cry. As you walk across the lawn towards the house, your husband watches from his favorite rocking chair. Well, you did it. I guess I did. This is what passes for deep conversation between you two these days. One of you will state the obvious, and the other will politely agree. Are you ready to slow down now? You look over and meet his eyes. Slow down? You want to scream. What are you talking about? I've worked and sacrificed for years to get things to happen. They're finally happening, and you want me to chuck it all away and come home? Are you crazy? But you don't scream that. Instead, you calmly ask for clarification. What do you mean, slow down? I'll work less. Be home more and help out at the ranch, dial back on all this stuff. He gestures to the welcome home signs. You open your mouth to challenge him, but catch yourself. You don't want to start anything. No, I'm not ready to slow down. Actually, I'm ready to kick it into high gear. Oh, girl, surely not. He shakes his head and abruptly gets up and goes back inside. As the screen door slams shut behind him, you realize this is one of those choices they write songs about. Your marriage or your career. You watch the empty rocking chair go back and forth, until it stops.
Imagined Life is sponsored by Ancestry. My house is rapidly becoming an Ancestry household. Last year, I took an Ancestry DNA test and learned so much about myself, about the migration patterns of my ancestors over centuries. Really cool stuff. And now, my wife is about to take an Ancestry DNA test of her own. And she is excited because she's seen from my experience that Ancestry DNA gives you so much more than just the places you're from. It helps paint a picture of your story using precise geographical details and clear-cut historical insights, so your ancestors become so much more than just a name. Only Ancestry can tell you such a rich story, with unique features that give a more complete picture about a person, like events that shaped them, how they made a living, and what they excelled in. And I love that we'll be able to share our results with our daughter and give her a deep appreciation of her roots and the stories behind the people who came before her. For a limited time now through June 13th, go to Ancestry.com/imagined to get your Ancestry DNA kit for $69. That's Ancestry.com/imagined to get your Ancestry DNA kit for just $69. Ancestry.com/imagined.
From Wondery, I'm Virginia Madsen, and this is Imagined Life. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk in the shoes of someone famous? On each episode of Imagined Life, we take you on an immersive journey into the life of someone you may think you know, maybe even admire, or the opposite. But no one realizes what it felt like to be them before the whole world knew their name. There will be clues to your identity along the way. Only at the end will you find out who you are. So sit back, let go, and imagine your life. On this episode, the firecracker. Imagine you're 6 years old, standing next to your dad in the middle of a pasture. It's 6 a.m. and the sun has just crested the horizon. You're telling him about your favorite teacher, and he's preparing to castrate a bull. You know, the usual father-daughter stuff. And then he gives you a look that means, shush, it's time for you to help. You don't mind, though. You're used to it. If it wasn't this, it would be herding or deworming or branding or ear tagging. Your family lives on a 100-acre ranch just outside of town that your daddy got for a song. Well, actually, not a song. He traded his car for it. Now the ranch is the family business. When your classmates talk about hopscotch or dress up, you nod like you do that stuff too. But you don't. If it's light outside and you're not in school, you and your 3 siblings work on the land. Everyone's got to help out, or the whole thing could go under. Your daddy motions you forward. Go stand behind him. You stomp over hard-packed mud patties in hand-me-down boots and take your position behind the bull. Flies buzz around you like helicopters in King Kong, but you don't move. You do exactly what your father tells you to, when he tells you to. One clean, quick slice, and the deed is done. Your father hands the severed bull parts to you. Now put them in the bucket. You turn and run back to the house as fast as your little legs will carry you. By noon, you've helped fix more than 24 bulls. Your job is also to help fix lunch while the boys relax outside. In the small kitchen, you and your mother and 2 sisters form an assembly line to make your father's favorite dish, mountain oysters. Your mother sings as she works, a song she's heard on the radio. Her voice is clear, ethereal. She nods to you and your siblings to join in on the harmony. When you hit a wrong note, she points at you with a spatula, smiling until you find the right one. Your voices coalesce into a single sound, like branches on the big oak tree outside the kitchen. Your father comes in to wash his hands just as you hit the final notes. Your mother nods at you. You kids keep practicing. Maybe you'll turn pro and buy your mama a new house. You stand a little straighter and try and catch your father's eye. Sorry, Mama, not me. I'm gonna be a big rodeo star just like Daddy. You've been dreaming about the rodeo since before you could talk. The sour, mulchy smells of corrals, the grace of cowboys as they become one with their horses, and if you do it just right, you win a trophy and make your daddy proud. There's only one category open to girls: barrel racing. so you'll be the best damn barrel racer there ever was. As your sisters plate up the mountain oysters, you beam at your father. If I'm good enough, I can travel all over the United States, right, Daddy? That's right. He doesn't smile, but you're almost sure you see his eyes twinkle, and you'll take whatever you can get. When he looks at you like that, it can keep you going all day. In fact, it keeps you going for the next 5 years as you practice your barrel racing out in your front yard, riding in endless loops in the makeshift bullpen until your head spins and your stomach is queasy. You call your horse Old Pelican. He's strong, caramel-colored, and does what you want him to, usually. On the day of your first competition, you wear red leather boots and your very best jeans. The sun is blisteringly hot, and the wind kicks dirt in your face. You're so nervous your stomach hurts, but you steady yourself in front of your dad. This may not be what you were made to do, but it's what you're going to do. You race at the starting gate.
A listener note. We strive to make most episodes of Imagined Life kid-friendly because we know many of our listeners enjoy them with their kids. However, this is not one of those episodes. If the little ones are in the back, we recommend The Handler instead.
Imagine you're 10 years old, and for a few moments of your day, you are gloriously unattended. And your face is planted firmly where stories live and breathe, inside a book. During the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of the year. Your favorite afternoons are spent here, in Mrs. Flower's home library. Lace curtains on the windows ruffle in the lazy breeze, and faded photos of blurry relatives stare back at you from the walls. At first, Mama would accompany you. Now she drops you off, leaving you and Mrs. Flowers alone. You can hear them whispering in the hall. How is she today? Better. She's not moping quite as much. Thank heavens for small miracles. They don't think you hear them, but you do. You hear everything. Mama sounds worried. You wish everyone would stop worrying. You're feeling better. Not great, and not like you were before, but better. You shut the book quickly. Ouch, too hard. Charles Dickens must have heard it clear from the grave. You silently apologize. Books should be treated with respect. They're filled with words, and words are powerful. Along the tall built-in bookshelf, you spy a new book with a soft green cover that reminds you of blades of spring grass. You pull it out and examine the front, running your fingers over the smooth orange honeysuckle flowers on the cover. Poems of Cabin and Field by Paul Laurence Dunbar. He's wonderful. You'll love him. Mrs. Flower's voice startles you. You didn't even hear her come in. She's holding a platter of warm tea cookies and 2 glasses of chilled lemonade, your favorite. She sits the tray on the table and takes her seat. You take yours, and then it begins. Why don't we read Dunbar today, since you've already discovered him? She opens the book and starts to recite. Her voice is low and melodic, soothing. The first book she read aloud to you was A Tale of Two Cities. Mrs. Flowers says words on paper are fine, but it takes the human voice to reveal their true meaning. Now it's your turn. You do not love poetry, not until you speak it. She hands the book to you. You stare at the page and read silently to yourself. Never let lightness nor nimbleness lack, either in maidens or men. Time hasteth ever, beware of its flight. Oh, what a game for a winter's night. The words are so unbearably delicious, so close to the tip of your tongue. You see yourself singing the words, dancing in the phrases. You open your mouth, willing words to form, but nothing happens. Mrs. Flowers gives you an encouraging smile. You try again, breathing in even deeper, your rib cage heavy, chest expanded. You can almost reach them. You pray they come out, but they don't. Maybe tomorrow.
Imagined Life is brought to you by The Kingdom, a suspenseful new thriller by Jess Rothenberg. Welcome to the Kingdom, where happily ever after isn't just a promise, but a rule. The Kingdom is an immersive fantasy theme park where guests soar on virtual dragons, castles loom like giants, and bioengineered species, formerly extinct, roam free. Opening with a shocking death, the fairy tale quickly becomes a nightmare when fantasist Anna, a princess engineered to make dreams come true, is accused of the crime. Could a fairy tale princess be capable of cold-blooded murder? Through courtroom testimony, interviews, and Anna's memories emerges a tale of love, lies, and cruelty, and what it truly means to be human. Westworld meets Disneyland in this suspenseful thriller by Jess Rothenberg. Available now wherever books are sold. Get your copy of The Kingdom today.
From Wondery, I'm Virginia Madsen, and this is Imagined Life. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk in the shoes of someone famous? On each episode of Imagined Life, we'll take you on an immersive journey into the life of someone you may think you know, maybe even admire, or the opposite, but no one realizes what it felt like to be them before the whole world knew their name. You will experience the challenges, the heartbreaks, the loss, and the triumph. There will be clues to your identity along the way. Only at the end will you find out who you are. So sit back, let go, and imagine your life. On this episode, The Traveler. It's 1944. You're 16 years old. You're sitting on an exam table waiting for the doctor. You can't seem to shake this runny nose and achiness in your limbs. Feels like the flu. You shut your lips tight and hope this wave of nausea passes. It's definitely stomach flu. You need a distraction, so you pull out a book from your purse. Dostoevsky. Instant relief. Finally, the doctor walks in. His nose is buried in your chart. You close your book and wait attentively. He sizes you up with one look. How old are you again? I'm 16. The doctor closes your file. I'm sorry to tell you, miss, but you're not sick. You're pregnant. There are options, homes for young women. Pregnant? There must be some mistake. You've only slept with one person, only one time, and it wasn't that great. Since then, you've hardly given it a thought. But now that decision looks like it will be with you forever. You walk home in a daze, head down. At least your feet know their way home, even if your brain is on autopilot. That's one of the perks of working as a cable car operator. You wonder how to break the news to Lady. That's what you call your birth mother, Lady. You live with her now. When you met her again, for the first time in 9 years, she didn't look like any mother you'd ever seen. She's beautiful and petite, with red lips, hips always swaying. Of course, your only frame of reference is your grandmother who raised you. She's who you call Mama. When Lady and your birth father separated, they shipped you and your brother off to your grandmother's house. You were only 3 years old, and your brother was 4. They tied suitcases to your wrists, pinned notes on your shirts, and stuck you on a train. You were addressed to Annie Henderson in Stamps, Arkansas. All aboard! Maybe you could do that. Mail away this child when he comes out of your belly so you can go to college first. Truth be told, when this baby comes, you're not sure exactly what you'll do. But what you won't do is what was done to you. No trains, no planes, or automobiles. You're his mother, and you're going to protect him at all costs. You sneak into the house as quietly as you can, but a creaking floorboard gives you away. Lady pops her head out from the kitchen. Supper's on the table in 5. Go wash your hands. As you and your brother race each other down the hall, you tell him what the doctor said and then whisper, "It's a secret. Not a word. I'll tell Lady when I'm good and ready." He smirks. He knows you well enough to know your good and ready could be never. When you're all seated at the table, Lady jumps right in, like she can smell you're hiding something behind the scalloped potatoes you're scooping into your mouth. "How was work?" Your brother answers, "Just fine. You know, work is work." "I'm not talking to you, smarty pants. I'm talking to your sister." You feel her hot gaze from across the table. "You're awful quiet tonight. Cat got your tongue?" "It's only been 5 minutes. That's nowhere near her record." You stifle a laugh. Your brother always has your back and knows how to make you laugh. If your love could keep him alive, he would live forever. And if your brother had his way, your life would be an open book and no secrets would ever hold you hostage. Someone better say something soon, or I will make it my business to find out what's going on. You sigh. She's bound to find out eventually. So, you brace yourself, take a deep breath. "She's pregnant." Then your brother blurts it out. "You want to smack him." Lady stares into the air for a moment like one of those China dolls whose eyes don't close. Finally, she asks if you love him and he loves you. You shake your head no to both. Then she does something totally shocking. She smiles. "Well, we're not gonna ruin 3 lives. We're gonna have ourselves a beautiful baby." Lady sashays around the table and folds you in her arms. It feels like something Mama would do, and it makes you feel good. 9 months later, you give birth to a healthy baby boy. You name him Clyde. You love him more than you thought you could love anything. His chubby cheeks, his tiny toes, those gorgeous almond eyes. He's exactly how you picture cherub angels seated next to the throne of God. By the time you're 20, you're out on your own. You itch for independence. And Lady understands. You have 2 rented rooms and you rotate between 2 jobs. You steal moments to read whenever you can. During your day shift at the diner, you keep a book next to the napkin holders behind the counter. You read quickly whenever you can steal a moment. Today it's Thomas Wolfe's Look Homeward, Angel. Naked and alone, we come into exile. Order up! You put down the book and hustle to the kitchen window and walk the order to table number 4. Omelet, toast, side of bacon, more coffee? The customer doesn't bother to look up from his paper or give you a reply. He just waves his hand. You decide to converse anyway. Yes, I'd love more coffee. Thank you for offering. This gets his attention. He looks up at you surprised. You know better. But sometimes people are rude and you can't help yourself. It might cost you a tip, but it was totally worth it. Or was it? Tips pay bills, and every dollar counts. As you scrub out the coffee rings on the Formica top, your mind drifts to your son. The service industry isn't exactly your dream job, but you're a good provider. Your son never goes hungry, but you struggle to find meaning in what you do. At the diner, you feel invisible with your soup-stained apron and worn Oxford shoes. There's gotta be more to life than this. Lady takes your son twice a week while you're at work. She feeds him hot dogs and peaches and cream, and he comes home laughing and warm. You love the relationship she's forming with your son, her grandson. You wish you had that with her when you were young, but you can't change the past or get back time. So you make the best of what you have right now. Once a month, you dine together at her boarding house. She always looks like $1,000,000. Diamond earrings and a fox mink stole. You admire her confidence, her swag. If you inherited any of that, you don't see it when you look in the mirror. One day, when it's time to catch the streetcar home, Lady walks with you for a block or two. You're tall like a redwood tree, and she's short, even in heels. Your strides are faster than hers, and soon you're ahead. She calls out, "Hold up." You stop and wait. When she catches up, she stops and looks you in the eyes. "Baby, listen. I've been thinking about it. You are the greatest woman I've ever met." Then she gives you a kiss and she's gone. You're stunned. You stand for a while in the light of the gas lamps flickering across the sidewalks of San Francisco, turning it over and over in your mind until it starts to sink in and make sense. All the while you were admiring her, she was admiring you. It's as if in one breath your birth mother, Lady, has validated your entire existence. You're already 6 feet tall, but tonight, her words make you stand a little taller. You imagine you might actually become somebody someday. Of course, you're not exactly sure who that somebody is yet. All you know is you're 22 and there are bills to pay and a son to take care of. And if there's one thing you know how to do, it's find a job. You've never been afraid of hard work. And over the next few years, you move around California working the best jobs you can find. You work in a nightclub called the High Hat, where prostitutes and sailors mingle and dance. You love to dance. You took classes in high school, but that was before you had your son. BC, before Clyde. This is AC. You've got different goals now. Your dancing connects you to a job at a brothel where you work as a madam. It's not pretty or fun, but it more than pays the rent. In your free time, you dive into books, Russian novels, American poetry, and your new favorite, Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man. I'm invisible, understand? Simply because people refuse to see me. When you have enough money, you buy a pale green convertible. And when things get too dicey at the brothel, you're forced to use that same car to get you and your son the hell out of town. There are 3 things you know for sure. You'll never abandon your son, you love to dance, and you don't want to be invisible. When you get back to San Francisco, you start taking classes at the local studio. Ballet, modern, and calypso. Modern dance gives you an unbridled freedom that allows you to express the gamut of emotion you've stuffed down inside. Pain, anger, love, sadness, joy. And you're good at it. At least that's what people tell you. You meet a young dance student named Al from New York, and the two of you click. You both love the writings of James Baldwin and Langston Hughes, and on the floor, you move in sync. Connect through bodily expression without words. When he asked you to dance together as a duo in a gig that pays, you actually have to think for a moment. Not because you don't want to, you do, but because it's hard to believe it could be that simple. Could you really dance on stage for the world to see and be paid enough money to live? He suggests you call yourselves Al and Rita. Definitely has a ring. As he ushers you onto the stage, your hand folded into the crook of his arm, your jitters disappear. You feel a heat inside and your mind quiets down. And then it's just you and Al and the floor and the light. You twist and twirl from your hips, your long arms reaching for the sky, wrists bent, fingers relaxed. You curl your arm onto your head and close your eyes. You feel electric and powerful, effortless in motion, freedom. When the music stops, Al stills your body. You could go on dancing forever on that stage. You feel so alive. But the memory will have to do until next time. You start singing, too. Your voice is low, raspy, distinctive. You dress in a strapless sequined gown and go barefoot. You croon about island life you've only read about in books. You book one gig after another. Nightclubs, cabarets, even strip clubs, as long as they've got a stage where you can sing and dance, you're there. You love performing, and the audience loves you. You feel like the wind blowing reckless off the sea, like God herself. One night at a show at a downtown club, you walk through the crowd sipping gin when a white man in a pressed shirt and tan linen pants stops you. He doesn't look like the normal clientele, but plenty of white guys make their way down here after dark. Usually, if they catch you after the show, they throw out some taunt, grab at your body. Your stomach clenches and you steel yourself. But that's not what happens tonight. You're really talented. You stand up taller and you look down your nose. Are you surprised? He doesn't seem to take offense. Instead, he smiles so big it crinkles his eyes. And your voice is really special. I think you'd be perfect for the show I'm casting. It's a European tour of a play called Porgy and Bess. If you're interested, come down for an audition. He hands you a card. It has a phone number on it. This guy's for real. 1 week later, you're offered a role as the principal dancer. If you take the role, you'll perform in 22 countries. Places you've only read about in books. Places where the color of your skin won't shadow you around like it does here. You'll be judged fairly on your talent and hard work. An opportunity to shine. There's only one catch. Your son can't come with you. Your heart breaks at the thought of leaving him behind. He's 8 years old, and you've never been apart. But this is a chance at a better life for you both, actually doing something you love, not slinging hash at the diner or dancing for jerks. And your mother offers to watch him. So, you take the job. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. While other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, Robinhood doesn't charge any commission fees, so you can trade stocks and keep all of your profits. There's no minimum account deposit needed to get started, so you can start investing at any level. The simple, intuitive design of Robinhood makes investing easy for newcomers and experts alike. View easy-to-understand charts and market data and place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. You can also view stock collections, such as 100 Most Popular. With Robinhood, you can learn how to invest in the market as you build your portfolio. Discover new stocks, track your favorite companies, and get custom notifications for price movements, so you never miss the right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners of Imagined Life a free stock, like Apple, Ford, or Sprint, to help you build your portfolio. Sign up at imagined.robinhood.com. Touring Europe feels like a dream. The cast is all black. Classically trained singers, actors, and dancers, the most talented people you've ever met. You travel to Verona, where Romeo and Juliet met their end. Wander London's winding, coal-dusted streets like Langston Hughes, and sit in the Parisian sidewalk cafes that captivated Fitzgerald and Hemingway. 2 things make Europe less than perfect. 1, it's not the racial utopia you thought it would be. Apparently, there's prejudice everywhere. 2, you miss your son. And he misses you too. On one call home, your mother tells you he has a bad rash and it's getting worse. So far, no medicine seems to work, so you cut the tour short and leave. On the plane ride home, you vow never to accept work that takes you away from your son again. You may still be trying to figure out who you're meant to be, but there's one thing you know for sure. Wherever this journey takes you, he belongs by your side. In California, you continue to sing and dance at clubs at night. You're even writing song lyrics, although they're more like rants. When a friend suggests a voice teacher might help you up your game, you think, why not? These days, it's hard to concentrate. You're worried about your son. He's almost a teenager and trying to be his own person. He even has a job in a bakery, and he's out the door every morning at dawn. In class, you seem to do more talking than singing. I know something's up, but he says it's his personal business. How much business can he have at his age? Maybe I ruined him by moving him around so much. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Your teacher holds up his hand. Hold up. You come in here each week, and instead of singing, you give me a list of worries and complaints. What about all you've accomplished? I want you to take 10 minutes and think about the things you're thankful for. Then let me know when you're ready to work. He leaves you alone in the practice room. The soundproof panels on the wall give the space an empty, hollow sound. You pick up the pencil on your music stand and flip over your sheet music and start to write. I can hear. I can speak. I have a son. I have a mother. I have a brother. I can dance. I can sing. I can cook. I can read. I can write. After that, you write everything down. You're a lot more productive when thoughts aren't buzzing around in your head. Sometimes you even manage to get something useful down on paper. Journal entries and short poems. Pretty soon, you have a stack of essays and poems that make much better song lyrics than your rants. It feels good to express yourself in a new way, whether it pays the bills or not. One night after a performance at a club, you meet one of your poet heroes. He's with a novelist you admire, writing royalty. When they invite you to sit down, you tell them you're a writer too. Mostly poetry and essays, and sometimes song lyrics. The novelist perks up. Well, Miss Poet, Essayist, Songwriter, why don't you come to New York and join the Harlem Writers Guild? It's filled with gentlemen like us and ladies like you. Bet you can't guess the one thing we all have in common. You're writers, and you're a genius. You'll fit right in. He chuckles and takes a sip of his drink. What's the group like? What do you do? It's small. We're like family. We critique each other's work, and we have lots of fun while we're doing it. Well, in that case, maybe I will. You should. Come and find out if you really are a writer. You promise the men you'll give the invitation serious consideration. Not that you don't want to, you do. But could it be that simple? Could you just move to New York and become a writer? Can you earn enough money to live? There's only one way to find out. You and Clyde pack up your life in California and move to New York. In New York, the energy is electric. Creativity in the air. It's everything the writers promised. You surround yourself with like-minded folks, singers, dancers, writers, poets, and entertainers. Friends like James Baldwin, who you call Jimmy. You find community in the Harlem Writers Guild and begin to settle in. Your thoughts flow freely, and you find yourself writing about everything you see. Everything except what's still too painful to name. One morning you wake up early and head to a makeshift office you and your artist friends have rented. You have an idea for a show called Cabaret of Freedom to raise funds for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King is one of the most inspiring men any of you have ever heard speak. He talks about the rights of every man in America, no matter what color their skin, how everyone is equal. He's not afraid to dream. It reminds you of the strength of your grandma back in Arkansas who taught you to hold your head high. You want to be part of the movement, help create change. When the show opens, it's an immediate hit. And when Dr. King hears about it, he is impressed. He tells your poet friend he wants to meet you. When you arrive at your office, you see him sitting in a chair like a regular guy. It's as odd as seeing a lion eat collard greens in your dining room. It's almost as surreal as hearing him ask you to be the Northern coordinator for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Of course, you say yes. You finally have a day job that can make a real difference in the world. And your nights, well, those still belong to you. One night, you're out at a party. It's been a busy week and you're ready to let loose. You go over to a friend's apartment. You've barely got a drink in your hand when she rushes up to you. He's here. Who? Maki. You've heard that name before. The South African activist speaking all over New York and getting your friends all worked up. They're passionate activists and artists, so they get worked up about a lot. You've been too busy to pay much attention. Then you see him. He's shorter than you and a little overweight, but as soon as your eyes meet, your heart melts into a little glowing puddle. It's been a long time since you felt like that. A week later, he asks you and your son to move to Europe with him. And you do. Life with Maki is wonderful at first. London leads to Cairo, which leads to days spent wandering through bustling markets and soaking in the culture, writing about what you see when you get home. Maki pays the bills. He also travels often and buys a lot of clothes. Only for himself. Your son needs clothes and things at school. So you do what you always do. You go to work. You hear of an assistant editor job at an English language newspaper called The Arab Observer. They want to pay you to write, not just hide thoughts and opinions away in your notebooks. Although you suspect your new husband would rather you did. Your suspicions are confirmed when he comes home from a business trip and you tell him about the job. No wife of mine will ever work. You stare at him defiantly. I start tomorrow. Your relationship lasts a few more months, but when your husband comes home smelling of perfume that's not yours, you fall out of love just as quickly as you fell in. By 1963, it's over. But you're not quite finished with your travels in Africa. You join a group of black expats, and they give you the community you're seeking. You work at the local university's School of Music and Drama and write newspaper articles on the side. It strikes you as ironic that you're in Africa covering politics in the US, but the country is alive with civil unrest. Deadly riots in East St. Louis, Chicago, and Detroit. 4 little girls are killed when a church is bombed in Birmingham, Alabama. JFK assassinated. Seems like the American news is filled with death and destruction. Maybe you'll just live out the rest of your years here, you think. But you know deep down, despite your affinity for the people in West Africa, it's not your story. Your story is unfolding back in the United States. That's when you meet a man who will inspire you more than anyone since Dr. King. He introduces himself to you as Malcolm X. He's the most magnetic person you've ever met. You've heard his theories and admired his ideas in the press, but in person, he's on fire with passion. Unlike Dr. King, he's intense and radical, and some people have a hard time hearing his message because of it. One day over coffee, you tell him as much. They are gonna tune you out if you keep yelling. He laughs. It's time to be radical. It's how you cement change. Come work with me. Move back to New York. You know people there. You've been active. They'll follow you if they won't follow me. Just pick up everything and move again? Maybe you could. With Malcolm, you feel like you could create meaningful change. You feel hopeful. It's time to go home. Okay, I'll do it. You agree to meet him in New York as soon as you wrap up your affairs in Ghana. You return to the States to help develop the Organization of Afro-American Unity. But before the organization can take off, Malcolm X is murdered at a rally in Harlem. Your friend is dead, and you're adrift again. You're a podcast listener, so you know that listening makes us smarter, more connected people. It makes us better partners, parents, and leaders. That's why I love listening on Audible. Audible is full of inspiring voices and compelling stories that open listeners up to new experiences and ways of thinking. With Audible, you get access to bestsellers, business, memoirs, and more, all professionally narrated by actors, authors, and motivational superstars. Like Rachel Hollis, you might have heard of her hit book, Girl, Wash Your Face. There's a follow-up out now called Girl, Stop Apologizing. Both are available on Audible, and both are hilarious, motivating, and inspiring listens. With the convenient app, members can access Audible anytime, at the gym, while commuting, on the go, and on any device. It will always pick up right where you left off. You'll also enjoy free and easy audiobook exchanges and an audiobook library you keep forever, even if you cancel. Start listening with a 30-day trial, and your first audiobook plus 2 Audible originals are free. Visit audible.com/imagined or text imagined to 500-500. That's audible.com/imagined or text imagined to 500-500.
Imagined Life is sponsored by Ancestry. My house is rapidly becoming an Ancestry household. Last year, I took an Ancestry DNA test and learned so much about myself, about the migration patterns of my ancestors over centuries. Really cool stuff. And now, my wife is about to take an Ancestry DNA test of her own. And she is excited because she's seen from my experience that Ancestry DNA gives you so much more than just the places you're from. It helps paint a picture of your story using precise geographical details and clear-cut historical insights, so your ancestors become so much more than just a name. Only Ancestry can tell you such a rich story, with unique features that give a more complete picture about a person, like events that shaped them, how they made a living, and what they excelled in. And I love that we'll be able to share our results with our daughter and give her a deep appreciation of her roots and the stories behind the people who came before her. For a limited time now through June 13th, go to Ancestry.com/imagined to get your Ancestry DNA kit for $69. That's Ancestry.com/imagined to get your Ancestry DNA kit for just $69. Ancestry.com/imagined.
It's February 1968. New York is the same as you'd left it. The apartments of your friends, the Harlem writing group, the sound that your shoes make on the bustling sidewalks. What's different is you. You're on your way to Carnegie Hall. Jimmy's emceeing an event where Martin Luther King Jr. is scheduled to speak. The lobby is glowing, sparkling lights. Everyone is dressed in colorful gowns and 3-piece suits. You find your seat in a box with some friends. When MLK takes the stage, you're surprised to see he's smaller than you remembered. You're not surprised his voice is just as loud and inspiring. By the end, everyone is on their feet clapping and cheering like it's church. Before you leave, you decide to say hello to King. When he asks you what you're doing these days, you smile and tell him you're writing a play. You actually haven't been able to stop writing since you left Africa. So many people, so many stories to sift through. He asks if you can hold off and help him with his new march on Washington. A march for jobs, to try and better the lives of poor people. Of course you will, you tell him. You're honored to help. You tell him you will join him after your birthday. You're about to turn 40, and that's cause for celebration. On your birthday, April 4th, you set the table with your best linens and fresh daffodils and an ice-filled bucket with bottles of chilled champagne. You've cooked enough to feed the army. Texas chili, baked ham, mac and cheese. The phone rings just as you are pulling the yams out of the oven. It's a close friend and one of your invited guests. I have yam hands. Can you believe I'm still cooking? When she speaks, her voice is low, serious. Have you turned on the TV or radio? What? No, I've been cooking since this morning. Don't turn on the TV, and don't answer the phone. I'm on my way over. You feel unsettled. You fix yourself a drink to steady your nerves and wait. When she arrives, her face is drained. She tells you Martin Luther King was shot and killed. The death of Malcolm X was devastating and sent you into a season of mourning. But with this one, you break. You leave your apartment, lights still on, stove still burning. The streets of Harlem are full of noise and people mourning Dr. King's death. In your head, it sounds like waves crashing and glass breaking, like the last hope of uniting this country left this earth with him. Strangers cry and embrace. You're distraught for weeks after. For a while, you even forget how to walk and how to speak. It's a familiar feeling. Your close friends who know your story worry you may stop speaking again. Every day, they stop by and call, forcing you to talk. They tell you to pour your grief into your journals. One day, your dear friend Jimmy shows up at the house with a dinner invitation. Tonight. He won't take no for an answer. He tells you it's time to shower, put on clothes, and leave the house. He tells you his friends are funny. They'll make you laugh, and you need that right now. And because he's your good friend, you tell him okay. Around the table that night, it feels intimate. You don't know these people, but grief has a way of opening you. They share stories of their childhood. Intimate, personal stories of triumph and sadness, heartbreak and love. Kinds of stories that inspire you to write. When it's your turn, you tell them about Stamps, Arkansas, and growing up poor, your parents' fights, your brother's love, and being put on a train for your grandma's house. They listen attentively, captivated. But you don't tell them everything. You're not ready for that. The hostess refills your wine and smiles at you warmly. You should write an autobiography. I'm just learning to write plays. Besides, why in the world would anyone want to read about me? But she isn't convinced. The next day, you get a call from an editor at Random House. His name is Robert Loomis. He's a friend of the hostess. She gave him your number. I'm calling to see if you'd like to write an autobiography for Random House. I couldn't possibly write an autobiography. I write poems and essays. Besides, I just turned 40. What would I write about? You could start at the beginning and see where it goes. Thank you, but no. In fact, I need to start packing. I'm leaving for San Francisco tomorrow. Okay, well, thank you for your time. You're probably right not to attempt an autobiography because it's nearly impossible to write one as literature. Bullseye. If there's one thing you absolutely cannot resist, it's a challenge. Wait, Mr. Loomis, tell me more about how this would work. He does, and you accept the challenge. You rent a hotel room for the month. Before you arrive, you ask the staff remove everything from the walls so there are no distractions. You bring a Bible, a thesaurus, a bottle of sherry, a deck of cards, and a yellow pad and pens. When you check in, you ask not to be disturbed unless there's a fire. Inside the room, you pour a small amount of sherry into a paper cup. You take off your shoes, sit down on the bed, and breathe. Then you crack open your heart to see what's inside. Over the years, you've written a lot, but you've never written something like this. Your own story, in your own voice. If you're gonna do this, you'll need to include the story only a handful of people know. You'll have to relive the moment your mother's boyfriend raped you when you were 7 years old. You told your brother. He told your mother. The man was arrested and thrown in jail. 1 day later, he was released. A few hours later, he was found dead. The police said it looked like someone had kicked him to death. You were so convinced that your words killed him, that they were so powerful you didn't speak again for 5 years. That was until you met Mrs. Flowers and saw her library, and she encouraged you to recite the poems you loved. You can't truly love poetry, not until you speak it. And so, one day, after more than 4 years of silence, you do. What are you looking at me for? I didn't come to stay. At age 40, sitting in your hotel room, when you reach for the pen to write, you'll have to scrape it across all those scars to sharpen the point. It will be painful, more painful than you can imagine. But you decide it's time to share your truth with the world. Maybe it will give others permission to do the same. You write past fear and through exhaustion. You give the book everything. It is a bold, poetic portrait of Black life, unflinching and unprecedented. You call it, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And when it's published in 1969, you will become the first Black woman to make the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list. To call you a Renaissance woman doesn't begin to capture who you are. You studied with Martha Graham and danced with Alvin Ailey. You worked side by side with poet Langston Hughes and novelist John Killens, who brought you into their fold in the Harlem Writers Group. You're the first Black woman to write a screenplay that gets made into a feature film. You'll be nominated for an Emmy, a Tony, and a Pulitzer, and receive more than 50 honorary degrees. Barack Obama will award you with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the land. In 1963, when your mentor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., led the March on Washington, you were in Ghana, marching through the streets of Accra in solidarity. 30 years later, you make it to Washington, stand on the steps of the Capitol, and become the first woman and first African American to read a poem at a presidential inauguration. Reflecting on your life, you will say that you dared to try many things, sometimes trembling, but daring still. And oh, the things you dared to do. Brothel madam, fry cook, and activist, singer, editor, streetcar conductor, and above all, writer, with nearly 36 books to your name. Each you'll say with the same message that we are all much stronger than we appear to be, and maybe much better than we allow ourselves to be.
What I really want to do is be a representative of my race, of the human race. I have a chance to show how kind we can be, how intelligent and generous we can be. I have a chance to teach and to love and to laugh. And I know that when I'm finished doing what I'm sent here to do, I will be called home.
You are Maya Angelou. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Imagined Life. If you did, please subscribe right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Wondery.com, or wherever you're listening. If you're listening on a smartphone, tap or swipe over the cover art of this podcast, where you'll find a link on the episode notes and some offers from our sponsors. Please support our show by supporting them. By supporting them, it helps us offer you this show for free. I'm your host, Virginia Madsen. This episode was written by Yvette Foy, Brandy Nicole Payne, and Leah Sutherland. Editing by Kate McCullough. Additional editing assistance by Caleb Bissinger. Sound design is by Derek Behrens for Airship FM, with audio assistance from Sergio Enriquez. Our executive producers are Stephanie Jens, Marshall Louis, and created by Hernan Lopez for Wondery.
Imagine. You wake up face down in bed. Same position you passed out in. You paw around for the receiver, but... shit. Hit the ashtray instead. It crashes to the floor, coating the orange carpet with an all-night poker game's worth of ashes. The curtains are drawn, muting the neon glow from the boulevard outside. You feel around in the darkness like a blind man until finally you find the reading lamp and turn the dial.
Hello?
Son, he's seen the papers, and it's bad.
Oh, who saw what paper?
The Sun-Times. That studio boss, Harry. I saw one of his mob buddies down at the track. Now, his people know where we live. Hell, they probably know where you are right this minute. You look at your watch. It's 7 a.m.
Whoa. What is going on, Pop? It's barely even morning. No girl is worth this kind of trouble. You should know that. You gotta stay away from her. They got eyes on you everywhere. Who does? Harry's guys. The press. He has connections all over the western seaboard, and he wants you to stay away from her. Says you're bad for business. They've got guards outside her door.
She warned you about Harry. This is how he operates, flaunting his mob ties, shelling out empty threats. But you've been careful. Nobody but your closest friends have seen you with her.
Come on, Dad. He's always saying things like that. You can't believe any of it. They read the gossip columns, son. Gossip reporters will print any...
The gossip columns? You think back to the previous night. Who was there? What did they see? And who the hell sold you out for a fat check from the Times? You start to panic. You want to hang up on him and call her. Warn her before she hears it from someone else.
Son, just promise me you'll stay away from her. They're gonna hurt you if you don't. It'll be okay, Dad. Say it. I'll stay away. There's one other thing. Yeah? This guy said you got 48 hours to get married to a black woman. If you don't, they'll break both your legs and put out your eye.
You hang up the phone and check your watch again. 7:15 a.m. Clock's ticking. You call your friend Arthur and then ring the reception desk.
I need the address for the nearest pawn shop and a cab.
You pull up to the shop a little after 9, just as they're opening. Inside, you study the display case. A pair of teardrop emerald earrings catches your eye. She would love those. Then your eyes move past them.
I'll take that diamond ring, the $1,500 one.
The cashier bags it up.
Congratulations.
You smile weakly and make for the door. Back at your hotel, your friend Arthur is sitting on a chair polishing his cowboy boots.
So what are you gonna do? I'm gonna get married.
You go down the names in your address book. Finally, you stop at one. A singer who works across the street. You went out a couple of times. She seems nice. Maybe she'll take pity. And if she doesn't, surely she'll take the check. You pick up the phone and dial.
Imagined Life is sponsored by Ancestry. My house is rapidly becoming an Ancestry household. Last year, I took an Ancestry DNA test and learned so much about myself, about the migration patterns of my ancestors over centuries. Really cool stuff. And now, my wife is about to take an Ancestry DNA test of her own. And she is excited because she's seen from my experience that Ancestry DNA gives you so much more than just the places you're from. It helps paint a picture of your story using precise geographical details and clear-cut historical insights, so your ancestors become so much more than just a name. Only Ancestry can tell you such a rich story, with unique features that give a more complete picture about a person, like events that shaped them, how they made a living, and what they excelled in. And I love that we'll be able to share our results with our daughter and give her a deep appreciation of her roots and the stories behind the people who came before her. For a limited time now through June 13th, go to Ancestry.com/imagined to get your Ancestry DNA kit for $69. That's Ancestry.com/imagined to get your Ancestry DNA kit for just $69. Ancestry.com/imagined.
From Wondery, I'm